With Black Ops 6 Zombies on the horizon, Modern Warfare 3 Zombies is well and truly over. And in this video, I wanted to retrospectively take a trip down memory lane, look at every moment of the roller coaster that this year of Zombies has been, and go over both the positives and negatives that Modern Warfare Zombies has brought to the evolution of modern zombies, and especially to the evolution of open world zombies. And specifically, if we reflect on the immediate reception to the announcement and idea of the mode to where we are now, I think a lot of the perception and attitude towards this style of zombies has changed for a lot of people. So let's dive right in, so sit back, relax, but I'd love for you to join in on the conversation in the comments below. And if at any point you enjoyed this conversation, you want to support it, then clicking the thumbs up button would be awesome. Now to begin, we have to make our way all the way back to August 17th, 2023, when Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 was announced. At this point, the zombies community has had no zombies for well over a year, as there wasn't any in Modern Warfare 2, and the last zombies experience was Call of Duty Vanguard. So the community were definitely itching for a new iteration of zombies, but when they heard it was going to be in the Modern Warfare universe, there was a mixture of both intrigue, excitement, but also confusion, as Treyarch Zombies has never been in a Modern Warfare game before. The only information given was you were going to team up with other squads to survive and fight massive hordes in the largest Call of Duty Zombies map ever, ready up for an open world player versus enemy extraction survival experience against some of the biggest enemies in Call of Duty history. There was already a lot of skepticism, considering it was an open world that we saw them attempt and fail at with Vanguard Zombies, and that fans were just yearning for some old school round-based zombies. On September 19th, 2023, the intro cutscene for Modern Warfare Zombies released, and the reception to it was surprisingly positive. This trailer set up the narrative for how zombies existed in Modern Warfare, and it was none other than Viktor Zakayev who learned of the existence of Ethereum and wanted to weaponize it. After finding it, local security had raised the alarm and military police were sent in as reinforcements. Under fire and in desperate straits, he resorts to throwing one of the vials, which shatters, instantly deploying a purple fog, turning anyone in its vicinity into zombies, setting up the context for how Treyarch Zombies exists in the Modern Warfare universe in the year 2021. This was also poised as a direct sequel to Black Ops Cold War, and is technically also a direct sequel to Black Ops 6 Zombies. Players were still skeptical with reason, and it wasn't until October 5th where we got to see the full reveal trailer and actual gameplay, and the reception couldn't have been more mixed if it tried. From initial first impressions and even the description of it being a extraction-based experience, it was evident that the mode took a lot of the foundations of Modern Warfare 2's DMZ mode and also elements from Warzone. The map that the gameplay was shown on was literally the upcoming Warzone map. It wasn't a zombies map made specifically for the mode, and the only visual changes were some slight changes to the skybox and the overall lighting. The mode also for the first time introduced human AI into a Call of Duty Zombies mode, which was extremely alien. But the initial gameplay also showed a much vaster open world than what we ever saw with Cold War's Outbreak mode, where there was significantly more things to do, where everything was contained to being in the same map, but divided into 3 different regions of difficulty rather than teleporting to different regions after completing an objective like we saw in Outbreak. There was immediate outrage when people learned that this game had a time limit, where unlike traditional zombies, you could play for as long as you wanted until you were overrun by the undead. But with this, as it was an extraction game, you had to leave the match before the timer ran out. It was very evident that this was oriented towards co-op play and definitely not a solo experience based on the initial gameplay. Some players were open to the concept of this because on paper, this showed 24 players on a single zombies map at one time, which we can all admit is incredibly cool. The early gameplay also showed some other core zombie fundamentals returning, such as the perk machines, the mystery box, the monkey bombs, and even brand new and returning wonder weapons, as well as a ton of returning special zombies. We even had the ray gun returning, as well as new pack-a-punch camos, which is something every zombies fan expects at the bare minimum. But after what we experienced in Vanguard, where it took months for us to get those things, having a lot more fleshed out zombie systems from the get-go was a pleasant change. But it was extremely evident that this game mode was not created from the ground up, and it really did use so much of the DMZ game mode, where at face value it looked like the human AI was just replaced with zombies. The appeal of what made DMZ so attractive to players was the risk versus reward of other real players being on the map that you could attack at any time. But in this game mode, all you had to worry about was the zombies. There was no PvP, which was an element that people really liked with DMZ. You could argue that in a zombies mode, having PvP would just be utter chaos, and I agree. But at the time, people were making those comparisons because DMZ support was completely dropped in favor of Modern Warfare Zombies. And in the fact that DMZ had so many innovations and features added throughout the seasonal updates that Modern Warfare Zombies did not have, it felt like a weird downgrade of systems when fundamentally the game mode felt so similar. Another huge appeal to the DMZ mode was the different faction missions, where there were multiple tiers throughout multiple factions that gave you objectives to complete within a game that gave you some rewards out of the game. And initially, the information about the Modern Warfare Zombies counterpart was extremely vague, amongst there being story missions, which is something we have never had before in Call of Duty Zombies and was demoed at Call of Duty Next and looked like a really strange campaign mission escorting an AI across a portion of the map. The community was extremely divided, with Outbreak and DMZ enjoyers open to the idea and old school zombie fans just yearning for a round-based experience being outraged that this wasn't what they wanted. There was a lot of dislike and skepticism rolling up to the release on November 10th. When Modern Warfare Zombies dropped on that day, a majority of the community's outlook on the mode completely changed. Modern Warfare Zombies launched with a ton of content right out of the gate. Immediately more expansive than Black Ops Cold War, you had a massive open map where there were a ton of contracts scattered that you could complete, and each contract rewarded you with a reward rift with different tiers of items depending on whether you were in the low threat, medium threat, or high threat. Just like with traditional zombies, you started on the outer edges of the map in the low threat zone and had to work your way up and build your character to be able to advance into the more advanced zones. This was vastly different to Cold War's Outbreak open world mode, where you were limited to one sole objective per region before teleporting to another region. In comparison, Modern Warfare Zombies gave you the entire map right off the gate with over a dozen different contracts as well as world activities to complete. And on top of contracts were world activities, which were secondary objectives, which were completely optional for you, unlocking even more rewards such as ether nests, harvest orbs, infested strongholds, mercenary strongholds, and even world-specific warlord bosses. And all of this was tied to the main gameplay loop of every match played, where you would complete a bunch of these activities, collect loot, and then extract so that in another game you could infill in being even stronger than you were in the previous game. But this went another layer deeper when it came to the story. The story of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies was told through a series of 48 missions divided into 3 acts. Each mission involved you having to complete some sort of activity within the game itself and rewarded you with items such as schematics and acquisitions, and was a fantastic grind to go through to get you familiar to every mechanic and system within the game, and you were rewarded for it, as getting to the end of each act unlocked a unique story mission that took you to a unique instance of the map where you had a specific objective to complete, and by completing it you unlocked a CGI cutscene to continue on the story. Each act's CGI cutscene was incredibly well animated and was a vast contrast to the cutscenes we experienced in the last Zombies game, Vanguard, where they started with CGI cutscenes and ended up with JPEG PowerPoints. It was clear that the production and the budget with this mode was substantially higher than what we'd seen in prior non-Black Ops Zombies games. The biggest surprise was getting to the final story mission of Act 3, where the story mission ended with the first boss fight in Modern Warfare Zombies history being a completely original brand new boss being an ether worm. The design, the scale, the surprise of this thing appearing surprised all of the community and was a truly great way to wrap up the initial launch story missions that were being told in Modern Warfare Zombies. This was a completely different approach to the traditional hidden main Easter egg quest in older Zombies, where this was just part of the story missions that you unlocked by completing all of the other act missions. Treyarch even rewarded the players with a unique operator skin called the Bone Collector that players could show off to show that they had beaten Modern Warfare Zombies. Completely separate to the act mission grind was the introduction of the schematic system in Modern Warfare Zombies. Schematics are obtainable recipes that allow you to craft anything from items, perks, and wonder weapons that you can use to bring into a game of zombies. The concept of being able to spawn in with a wonder weapon and Juggernog and all the other perks straight off the bat sounded extremely alien and very non-zombies, but once people got used to it, they actually really enjoyed this system. And obtaining all of these schematics was another grind that added to the overall meta of Modern Warfare Zombies, but it just felt like there was so much more to do and unlock that the replay value than there was in Cold War's open world Outbreak mode. Gameplay innovations and systems that this brought elevated the Outbreak experience to something truly unique and different, where you could assimilate with other teams and become an 8-man squad in zombies. Players choosing to immediately go towards the high threat zone, spawning in with a load of items so that they can start tackling contracts to unlock the rarest of the schematics. There was a map boss fight being the Warlords in the fortresses, where you could be rewarded with yet again some rare schematics. And you could also take down other world bosses like the Stormcaller that resided in the Ether Storm, or take out mercenary AI convoys that led to an Easter egg that unlocked a secret vault. Treyarch even added secret perk Easter eggs where you could obtain almost every single perk for free via a small Easter egg. You could even unlock a friendly dog companion that would revive you if you were playing solo or in a co-op team. It was clear that Treyarch actually really thought long and hard about the gameplay systems and designs to make this the best open world experience that they've had to date. And a lot of the skepticism and hate towards the mode before its release almost entirely disappeared, as those that were open to the idea of trying a new open world zombies actually realized that a style of zombies like this could live alongside a round-based zombies mode as well. It didn't need to be a one or the other scenario. The launch of Modern Warfare Zombies proved that actually both styles could exist and complement each other. The launch was so successful that it became the most played co-op mode in Modern Warfare history. And I don't know if that has much to say going on the fact that MW 2019 Spec Ops mode was very undercooked on launch, and MW2's co-op mode was almost non-existent. But I think surprising to both Activision and Treyarch, they actually had a bit of a hit on their hands. But as with any game and game mode, cracks started to show once you had completed everything. Once Act 3 was completed, the only thing left for you to do was unlock the rest of the schematics. But once you had them, there was no real reason to jump back into the game and use them because there wasn't anything else you could do. But unlike traditional round-based zombies, this was a live service open world zombies mode. So for the first time ever, Treyarch were going to update a zombies map after launch and update it fairly often. And players didn't have long to wait because Season 1 for Modern Warfare 3 dropped on December 6th, only 4 weeks after the release of the original game. And the offering for zombies looked really promising. We got a brand new Act 4 story mission, along with the introduction of a completely new endgame activity called Dark Ether Rifts, enabling us to go into the Dark Ether, matching the visual Dark Ether that we saw in Black Ops Cold War's D Machine. This put us on a repurposed version of the Al Bagra Fortress from Modern Warfare 2, but they look visually different enough that most players didn't mind. And the story mission ended with a very surprising worm boss fight, this time being a different version of the Ether worm that we fought at the end of Act 3. Upon completion, the reward rift would give you an item called the Locked Diary, and upon leaving the Dark Ether, we got a brand new cutscene continuing on the story cliffhanger we got from Act 3. This cutscene was very well animated, showcasing the Requiem characters that we are going to experience in Black Ops 6 as zombies in a weird vision that the main character Ava was having. We're teased to show that both the Requiem members are no longer alive, but Maxis has no information about her. Upon completing that Bad Signal story mission, we were given a Locked Diary, which was at first a seemingly random reward, but was actually all tied to a new Easter egg that was added with Season 1, where you could unlock the ability to re-enter the Dark Ether and unlock brand new schematics that were added with Season 1. Now, to complete this Easter egg, you first had to get the locked diary. You then had to get 3 other items that you would get in the world, but then you would need to manually upgrade each item to become legendary. 2 of the items required you to use different ammo mods and then placing a Molotov grenade into a doghouse. Once you had upgraded all 4 of these relics, you would place it at the altar south of the Opal Palace to unlock the new Dark Aether Rift. From here, to engage in this endgame activity, you needed to offer it either a sigil or an elder sigil, giving you a 30-minute version inside the Dark Aether or a hardcore 15-minute version. And within this hardcore 15-minute version is where you could get the chance of getting the brand new schematics for Season 1, which were the Aether Blade case, the dog bone, and golden armor plates. The Aether Blade case was a lethal equipment very similar to the Hell's Retriever from Mob of the Dead, allowing you to insta-kill any normal zombies in any zone. This equipment could be used infinitely and is an absolute must-use item for harder activities in the game. The dog bone schematic spawns a friendly dog for you at any point, completely bypassing the friendly dog Easter egg that you could choose to do beforehand. But easily the best schematic added in Season 1 was the golden armor plate, which when equipped allows you to regenerate armor plates over time, completely bypassing you having to find plates and manually plate up. But the most surprising addition with Season 1 was the return of the VR11 Wonder Weapon. First seen on Call of the Dead and never seen again, this was updated for modern zombies, and any zombies shot with this Wonder Weapon would turn into human mercenaries. But there were other secret abilities to this weapon as well, where it allowed you to heal and fuel up any vehicle without having to go to a gas station. This was incredibly useful in the Escort Rover mission, where it was able to heal the rover, making this contract in the Dark Aether a lot easier. But the way to unlock this was through one of Season 1's biggest surprises, and that was the addition of the very first map Easter egg in Urzikstan, where if you collected 4 USBs around the map and made your way to a part of the map, once the storm had come in after 45 minutes, a certain location on the map would accept these 4 USBs and begin a completely secret world boss fight, being a secret red worm. This was easily the hardest challenge yet added to Modern Warfare Zombies, and the concept was incredible, as any amount of players who were still in the game could help defeat this boss and reap the rewards. To this day, it's still considered one of the hardest boss fights in Zombies, purely due to how much health it has and how random your luck can be on how much time you have to take this thing down. This was the 3rd time this worm had been used at this point in the game, but players absolutely loved it, as it offered genuine challenge with really great rewards, and you had to play out the entire game before you had a chance to take it out. Taking out this red worm had the opportunity to drop the VR11 schematic for you. Overall, the community consensus was extremely positive with this update, as it came with a ton of content, more than what players were expecting, and with the addition of a secret boss fight, it kept players engaged for a good few weeks. But for the majority of players, they rinsed through this content within a few days, and the problems first shown at launch began to be more apparent, where a style of game like this that is a live service zombies game needed to have more frequent updates, and the next update didn't come for another 5 weeks with Season 1 Reloaded, and the content added was extremely minimal. The only new thing zombies got was a new warlord called Dockerby. This warlord occupied a fortress that was in a separate part of the map in Zaravan City on top of a skyscraper. The design and ideas of this warlord were pretty cool, as it could fly around the fortress arena, but unfortunately this was a very short-lived experience, as once you took it down, the rewards were terrible, and that's everything you've experienced with the Season 1 Reloaded update. Players were understandably frustrated, as they had been waiting since December for new content in Modern Warfare Zombies. This warlord update wasn't it, and on February 7th, Season 2 dropped for Modern Warfare 3, but there was a little bit of a problem. Modern Warfare Zombies wasn't getting any content until Season 2 Reloaded, which wasn't until March 6th, meaning since the incredible amount of content that we received in December, players had to wait 3 whole months before they got another content drop that was remotely close in content to what we got with Season 1. So after waiting so long, did it live up to the hype? Well, we got a brand new story mission that took us again into the Dark Aether, that repurposed another section of the Al Mazrah Warzone map, and ended with a unique boss fight against a slightly beefed up Mangler. Upon completing the story mission, we were given another random item, being a set of drums, and we got another high quality CGI cutscene to continue the story along. The main focus of this update for Season 2 Reloaded was to unlock another Dark Aether Rift, so that players could return to this new Dark Aether and unlock the new schematics for the season. At this point, I think fatigue was starting to set in, in. Players were happy and excited to be hunting for a new Easter egg, but the format of these updates was starting to become very predictable, and players were starting to lose interest as outside of this routine of new Dark Aether Rift Easter eggs and unlocking the new schematics, there wasn't anything else really to do. So the main focus was getting the new schematics, which for this update was the Mags of Holding, Bloodburner Key, and the VR11 case, with the standout schematic being the Mags of Holding, working similarly to the Ring of Fire field upgrade, but ammo's taken out of the stocked ammo instead of the inserted mag, so you never have to reload. And this became an essential item for future updates and quests, making it a lot easier. Bloodburner Key allowed you to spawn in your own Bloodburner bike, which up to this point was a very secret vehicle that you could find hidden around the Urzikstan map. And now you could finally unlock the VR11 crafting schematic so you could craft your own at any point. Whilst this was the content update that we had been all waiting for, due to it following that exact same pattern as Season 1, players were able to run through all of this very quickly, unlock all of the new schematics, and then have nothing else to do. There were no secret boss fights like the Red Worm added with this update, so it felt like on update days, the mode was extremely exciting and fresh, but there were no live service updates added to zombies between these moments to keep players around, and players wouldn't get any new content until Season 3 Reloaded on May 1st. Another 8-week wait for this update, where the initial launch of Season 3 also didn't add anything new into zombies as it wasn't coming until Reloaded. During the wait for this update, Treyarch officially announced that they are no longer working on Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, with Sledgehammer Games taking over the remaining development of the seasonal content, as Treyarch had set its sights on something exciting on the horizon. This announcement followed previous news where Treyarch had no plans to add any new enemies or perks into Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, showing that they had finished development on this mode a long time ago and had pivoted to working on Black Ops 6 Zombies primarily. This added a brand new story mission called Union, taking us into another repurposed section of Al Mazrah, although this time a lot more terrain was added, and at this point this was easily the best looking Dark Aether Rift arena we've had yet. The story mission was quite simple but involved a few puzzles before having to take down zombies in specific areas, and then it finished with a final boss fight against a boss enemy called Chaoxia, who was an elite version of a disciple who often had an invincibility phase, spawning manglers and mimics to try take down the player. This ended with another CGI cinematic cutscene, which was starting to unravel a very interesting storyline, where we learn that Dr. Elizabeth Gray from Black Ops Cold War is the surrogate mother of the main character Ava Jansen, whose parents are Ravenov and Samantha Maxis. This story reveal was pretty exciting for the community, with the videotape of Elizabeth Gray taking place several years after the events of Black Ops 6 Zombies. Following this, there was another Dark Aether Rift to unlock, and for this, players need to use the giraffe toy that was available from completing the story mission, as well as getting a laptop with stickers, imaginary friend drawing, and science journal. All of these quest items involved using some mechanic within the map itself in a certain location, but each of these items had to be upgraded by activating these large triangular runes that would be spread across various buildings, where you need to stand in the correct position, lining up all the fragments to form a perfect triangle, and then take down a load of zombies in order to upgrade each of the items. Unlocking this new Dark Aether Rift allowed you to get this season's new schematics, which were dead wire detonators, golden mask filter, and the sergeant's beret. Dead wire detonators simply applies the dead wire ammo mod to all explosive equipment, which made weapons like the RGL grenade launcher even more powerful. The golden mask filter simply allowed your gas masks to regenerate when not in use, and the sergeant's beret allowed you to disguise yourself as a mercenary, which is originally in DMZ as a disguise feature. The players didn't expect anything outside of the content that was offered on the roadmap. However, the dev team at Sledgehammer Games actually hid a few secrets in the Dark Aether. The first being that inside this Dark Aether Rift, certain contracts would also reward you with a unique benefit that you would only have for the rest of your Dark Aether match. If you completed all 3 Easter eggs within the Dark Aether, you were able to access a secret boss fight in the middle of the map. This was completely unguided and a really cool secret, and if completed, you would unlock a secret blueprint for the Ram 7 called Smoke Signals. Consensus was, whilst the cutscene itself was incredibly cool, players were starting to get very fatigued at the same rinse and repeat pattern, and schedule of content was occurring again and again, and arguably these were the weakest schematics that we have had yet. But the next update that followed would be the most divisive update yet. Season 4 Reloaded didn't arrive until June June 26th, and for the first time wasn't repeating the same content schedule that players had gotten used to, but it was actually bringing less. This update only brought one new feature called the Unstable Rift. The conceptualization for this mode is that those that want to face increasingly intense wave of zombies could finally have an experience like that with this Unstable Rift mode. It was a super hardcore experience set in a very small arena of the first Dark Ether Rift, where you had to survive for 5 total waves of enemies, taking well over half an hour to complete. For the first time in what I can remember in Treyarch history, going into this Unstable Rift immediately boosted every player, giving them a maxed out Pack-a-Punch weapon with maximum rarity and every perk for free. This was really cool and definitely needed, as this was designed to be the ultimate hardcore challenge for people in Modern Warfare Zombies. And the challenge gave you a pretty decent reward, as it blanket wiped all of the cooldowns on your schematics immediately by completing this. However, this update fell on its head for 2 reasons. The first is, unlike every other update with its own story mission, any player can interact and start it whenever they want. But for the Unstable Rifts, this was completely changed, where whatever team was first to get to it could experience it, and if you weren't there first, well, tough luck. The way these rifts are activated is around the map there were these new altars added where you needed to kill zombies with a specific ammo mod. The zombies need to be taken out within the circle of the ammo mod, and once completed you need to repeat this 3 times total, where these obelisk locations are complete random and are never specified in the game itself. But the moment that a 3rd obelisk in-game has been completed, that new Unstable Rift will spawn randomly in the game, and it's up to you to get there before another team does. But if they do get there first, then they've just claimed all of your hard work, and you'd have to repeat the process of getting all 3 altars done again for another chance at getting to a rift. Second reason why this fell flat on its face is because you had to use basically all of your schematics to be equipped well enough to even tackle the Unstable Rift, and the reward you get for completing it is a blanket wipe of all of the cooldowns, which is basically cancelling out what you've had to do to prepare for it, making it kind of pointless. And if you did all that preparation, go into the Unstable Rift, and you and your teammates completely die and bleed out, then you're gonna have to wait 2 days before all your schematics are cooled down again to attempt it again. While the concept of there being something that you have to race against other teams to complete and get to first is cool, this caused more toxicity and frustration every game, where everyone was racing to get it done as soon as possible, making it a very frustrating experience for players. There was one other thing you got by completing this, and it was a really cool blueprint for the SVA called Mark of the Survivor. This was an exclusive unlock you could only get by completing the Unstable Rift, so at least you had something cool to show off for completing it. It demonstrated that the idea of getting a specific unique unlock by completing something in Zombies was actually very popular, as I know and remember a lot of multiplayer and Warzone players jumping on specifically to try and complete this to get that blueprint. Once you've completed the Rift once, it was a one and done. You got the unlocks, there was nothing else changed or added in the main map, so the live service portion of the game fell dormant once again. At this point, Season 5 was just on the horizon, and it was confirmed that Season 5 would be the final content update for Modern Warfare Zombies. This update didn't come until August 21st, nearly 3 months since the last full content update, with the same schedule of content that we were used to. And Sledgehammer Games promised to end Modern Warfare Zombies with a bang. And boy, did they deliver. The final story mission took us to a new Dark Ether arena set in Al Mazrah City, with a gravity-defying twist featuring Ethereum launch pads and a huge emphasis on verticality, keeping as much as the action above ground as possible. This story mission turned the visuals of the Dark Ether up to 11, with easily the most visually impressive Dark Ether yet. The story mission design involved you going higher and higher until you eventually come across the final boss fight of Modern Warfare Zombies, an all-new boss designed just for this moment, with that being known as the Entity, a Dark Ether shadow version of Ava. And this boss fight was absolutely epic, having you traverse across multiple small arenas all in the sky to take down this boss, which had several different hit points on its body. Zombies were constantly spawning around you in all arenas, and you were having to traverse across multiple arenas to make your way to the boss's next area. The scale, design, the effects and attacks of this enemy were very impressive, and a quality that definitely matched what we experienced with the initial launch of the game. What was even better is that once you beat the boss, that was actually a fake death and you had to go and take it down again. The design and scale of this boss fight makes me incredibly excited to see what is possible in Black Ops 6 Zombies. But the fact that this is all possible and you're able to do this with up to 6 players is such a cool thing. The community were not expecting too much considering what we experienced with the unstable rifts in Season 4 and the repetitive nature of the content that we've had up until now. But defeating this boss fight gave us another item to a new Dark Ether Rift unlock, as well as the final cutscene for Modern Warfare Zombies, showing Ava in the future in the new Black Ops 6 Zombies map location, Liberty Falls. We had teasers of a new shadowy figure known as the Shadow Smiths, and the potential of Samantha Max's herself still being alive in 2021, taking Ava Jansen into the Dark Ether. It's a huge cliffhanger that takes us directly into Black Ops 6 and potentially even beyond with this storyline in the decade that it's set in. This was a very satisfying conclusion to the Modern Warfare Zombie story, and there was still one more Easter egg quest to complete to unlock that new Dark Ether Rift, with each item involving you using a rare schematic from a previous season, including the Ether Blade, the Sergeant's Beret, and the Blood Burner bike. Inside this Dark Ether Rift was 3 contracts that had the chance to give you the brand new schematics for the season, being the Disciple Bottle, the Grenade Bandolier, and a Stash Increase. Arguably, I'd say that all 3 of these are very weak schematics to end the zombie season on. For some reason, Sledgehammer Games also made these incredibly rare to get in the hardcore version of the Dark Ether Rift. Sledgehammer Games were not done, as they added a side Easter egg in the hard Dark Ether version of this rift, which allowed you access to another boss fight, which is against a harder version of the entity. This was an incredible challenge to complete, and if completed, would give you another secret blueprint reward, something that people that weren't Zombies players really wanted to get their hands on. But on top of that, Sledgehammer Games added a few more secret Easter eggs in the Dark Ether as well, unlocking secret rooms, rewarding you with schematics, and adding the most depth that we had seen yet to a Dark Ether arena at this point of the game. It was bittersweet because this final content update was easily the best one that we've had since the initial Season 1 drop. And if only this game mode got the same level of support more consistently throughout the year, people would think a lot more fondly on Modern Warfare Zombies. The mode overall was a massive experiment, taking elements of the Outbreak Open World Zombie style mode, but then incorporating it into an extraction-based game loop, borrowing the fundamentals from DMZ. And overall, I think this was a massive success. The mode definitely had its shortcomings, and there was a lot more that I think they could have done to really deviate even further from it feeling like a DMZ reskin. But this to me was the perfect evolution of Outbreak from Black Ops Cold War, going from a locked 4 players to a live 28 player game where you could have social interactions with dozens of other players in real time. Was one of the coolest things from a social aspect that we had seen in Call of Duty Zombies. Reflecting now at Modern Warfare Zombies across all of its content updates, I think it truly deserves its own place alongside round-based zombies in the Call of Duty Zombies ecosystem. The biggest shame with this mode, however, is just its potential. It had so much potential to do so much more, but unfortunately, given the time constraints that Treyarch had to design and create this mode, as well as create Black Ops 6 Zombies, it just sadly didn't get the support that it deserved. But this mode proved a lot of people wrong, where prior to its launch, everyone doubted this mode, despising the idea of an open world zombies mode and solely just wanting to see round-based. At the end of the day, I would always want to see round-based zombies content over any other style of mode. However, if you open your mind to the idea of there being multiple different ways to experience zombies in Call of Duty, this to me is hands down the best non-round-based zombies mode we have ever had. And whilst we boldly go into a year full of nothing but round-based zombies content, there will be a small amount of players that will miss this zombies experience, and I don't blame them, but I also don't think this is the last we'll see of this style of zombies. I just hope that if we do see this mode return in a future game, it should have its own unique map created specifically for the open world mode, continue on that plethora of act missions and story missions, but have much more frequent content updates, much more Easter eggs, much more boss fights, even more layers and depth to each of the systems built into the game. But for a mode that you'd never typically think would ever have existed in a Modern Warfare game, I think Treyarch did a really good job. Going in, even I was skeptical, as the mode did feel more DMZ than it did Outbreak. But unlike the absolute flop that was Vanguard Zombies, it felt Treyarch actually had a clear direction with this game mode, and for the most part pulled it off successfully. But what let this mode down was just how infrequent the updates were. The fact that even on main season launches we didn't get content, we had to wait until Reloaded, was an absolute bummer. And I just don't understand how a mode that became this successful wasn't better supported by Activision and Treyarch Sledgehammer Games with more frequent updates to really flesh out this concept. As like I said, at its core, I think this mode is actually really dang good. It's just the fact that the post-launch support is what really let this mode down. Now, I've given it quite a bit of praise here at the end, but I couldn't finish this video without also talking about the negative parts of Modern Warfare Zombies. Now that it is well and truly over, we can reflect on what they could have done better and what I don't agree with certain elements of the game. And the first one is that there is no way to increase the time limit. When the game first launched, this was a highly controversial topic because never in a game of zombies has there ever been a time limit, but because there are no rounds in this version of zombies, it's just time. You only had it until that time ran out, and then that was it. If there was some way to increase the time limit, if there was some sort of global map Easter egg that players could take part in order to increase the time limit, or perhaps by the more contracts you manage to get done in the game, the longer it lasts for you, or some sort of extension, I think that would have gone down a lot better. Now, from the very beginning, this was designed as a co-op mode, a 3 to 4 player mode, not a solo mode, and I really wish that there was a solo mode for this game, even if it meant that it spawned you in with a self-revive right off the bat. Potentially the game was slightly easier, perhaps quick revive works slightly differently, so it could revive you up to 3 times like it used to do in traditional zombies, just as a bonus aid for those that are going solely solo. Because something like that would have been really cool, because Outbreak was definitely a more solo friendly mode. When you played in solo, everything was tailored to a one-player experience, and I definitely think there could have been ways where this could have been tailored to a solo player if they were playing on their own. Now, another complaint I've seen throughout the year is that there's been no private match support for this game mode, and the reason why I think this would actually be a good thing is that when playing this game, sometimes you'll be put in lobbies with other players that are in complete different geolocations to you, and that's where you're going to suffer a pretty large latency, ping, even packet burst, where you're just going to have a really bad experience. And that's where a private match would completely negate any of these issues. It's fantastic that you can go in as a 3-man and you can squad up to become a 6-man, but it's frustrating that you couldn't get 5 of your friends into a game with you in order to become that 6-man. You had to do all sorts of weird things to try and get into the same lobby at the same time. A private match would have just completely negated this problem. But on the other hand, is a no private match really that big of an issue when the whole idea is that you're in a massive game with 24 other real players at all times? But I think maybe now that we're at the end, it would be nice if they added a private match function, just like we have with Warzone, where you can make your own custom private matches where you have a set amount of players and you can do your own stuff. I think that would be really, really fun. Another negative is that it took them way too long to implement crash prevention, where you would lose items. For the first few months of this game's launch, if you ever crashed, you would lose all your items straight away, and there was nothing in the game system-wise to circumvent where a crash happened that was out of your control, where you could get your items back. Now we're at the end of the life cycle. They've added a ton of things to make that service a bit better, where you don't lose your stuff a majority of the time. But still, if they added something like an auto rejoin feature, that would be incredible. If there was even something like, I don't know, a time limit where if you crashed, you had 2 minutes from that point to rejoin the game, that gives you more than enough time to reboot, be able to go back in. It has that save state of your items. Hopefully with the save and quit feature that Black Ops 6 has, Treyarch now has that technology to implement this into a future open world zombies mode like this. But yeah, the crashing was really frustrating and it took way too long to fix. It's also so sad that this game mode never got any unique maps whatsoever. Like, I don't think playing on Urzikstan was that bad of an experience because it made sense in the Modern Warfare universe, but having just reused our map Mazra map assets, the Dark Ether locations, and not getting one single unique map created for this mode, it really does suck. Even as bad as Vanguard Zombies was, there were still some unique maps created for that game, such as the Dark Ether in Terra Maledicta. That looked absolutely incredible, and I'm sure on the next go on this, they will probably have unique maps. But seeing as Outbreak didn't have any unique maps, and this doesn't have any unique maps either, we're 2 for 2 right now. I also thought the inclusion of the mercenary AI just never felt necessary. No matter how Treyarch span it, the Warlords were a pretty useless addition to the overall experience because it was a real one and done thing. The rewards you got from it were never worth going for the Warlords, and it felt like the Zombies equivalent of the DMZ bosses that they added into DMZ with each new map, but those always dropped weapon cases where if you extracted with them, you unlocked a set of unique rewards. So potentially they could go down that route if they were to keep this Warlord and mercenary AI thing in the future, but I think it should just stick to zombies. Similarly to the idea of solo and private matches, there is no pause option in the game. Now, I know it's probably very difficult for them to implement this when there's 24 players, but if there was some sort of way where you as the player could actually be paused on the server, even just for a minute, 2 minutes, I think this would be really, really huge, because you never can pause on this game mode, and that is really frustrating, where sometimes in life there will just be moments where you have to put down the controller and you have to step away, and if you don't know good AFK spots on this game, then you're pretty much screwed, and the zombie is going to be throwing meat at you constantly in that spot as well, so you're never really ever going to have a moment to breathe. I think it was very evident as we went through the entire year of this game with the content releases, the schedule. It's just the very plain obvious thing that after the launch there was just nothing to do, and then when you get every new season or update, that grind only lasts for a day or two, and then there is literally nothing else to go for. There's no rounds or high round records to go for. There's not like a speed run stuff that you can do in the game. People were making up their own challenges where they were trying to defeat every mini boss and warlord within one game, then do the red worm, and then go into one of the story missions and doing one of those boss fights as well. It's a tricky one because the full main games content when it first dropped, there was so much to go for, and I think the majority of it came from those Act 1, 2, and 3 missions, and I think it was criminal that Treyarch didn't add any Act missions beyond Act 3, and by that I don't just mean the story missions which they added, I mean actual fully grindable huge list of missions with more things to do, and I guess that comes down to the fact that the map never really got any significant changes or updates, which I also think is something that they could have done that would have been really, really cool. Then if you reflect on Urzikstan within Warzone itself, that also barely got any changes throughout the 6 seasons, so we can't really be too surprised, but I would love to see the actual map change and evolve over time with new POIs, new things added into the main map. I think the idea of having schematics that have a cooldown in theory is cool, and finally they added a way for you to actually reduce that cooldown, which was really necessary, but I think the cooldown mechanic as a whole is just a little frustrating, especially with some of the times you have on some stuff, like 2 days you gotta wait but you can craft a wonder weapon again. Like, we went through a lot of grind to be able to have that unlock to be able to build this thing. Surely it shouldn't be that high of a cooldown. It's just ridiculous. Instead of there being a set timed cooldown on every item, maybe it could be changed to where you can only craft certain items a few times within a week time span. That way some items that are a little less rare you can craft more within a week, some less. That way it's just a little less constrictive. Like I said, it just took them way too long to implement that exfil cooldown. We really needed that right at the start of the game, because again, that was a function that DMZ had pretty early on throughout its life. Even though we just got a stash increase schematic with the final update, I still think that the stash increase took far too long to come into the game, and the stash in itself is just way too small of a size. I know that they designed it where you got to be strategic about what you're holding and what you're picking and what you're going to lose and whatever, but again, we have worked so hard to get some of these items. The stash should at least be double the size that it is, and in future there should be ways to have way bigger stashes than what we have. I don't know if it's just like a game dev thing where it's just gonna break a load of stuff if there's way too many items in there, but regardless, I'd love to just see a bigger stash. And whilst in theory, I love the idea of the dark ether rifts and having to go on a little mini Easter egg quest to be able to unlock them and get schematics, that pattern became really repetitive. I'd love that if they have another go at this with the same concepts, that they mix it up. Like the unstable rift definitely was a mix-up, but probably not the right way to go about things. Something where it's just a little bit different every time, and also where we just have a full-fledged main Easter egg quest within this game mode. Like we had that in Outbreak, where we had 2, and it was really awesome. That boss fight is still one of the best boss fights, in my opinion, from modern zombies. They teased before this mode came out that there would be Easter egg quests after launch, and I guess that's what the Dark Ether Rifts were, but they're just not the same idea of what's in our heads of the idea of an Easter egg quest. But that pretty much rounds up all of the negatives and gripes and just potential wish lists on what this mode could have been and how they could do it again in the future. But if there's one thing that this zombies mode has actually done incredibly well, is the actual schematic equipment that was introduced in later seasons is genuinely useful pieces of equipment that will sorely be missed if they do not return in Black Ops 6. Now don't get me wrong, not all of the schematics in this game are good, but some of the ones that were introduced earlier were incredible, such as the golden armor plate and the ether blade case. Now we know that Black Ops 6 Zombies will have manual armor plating just like we saw in Modern Warfare Zombies, and fans are not happy about the idea of having to manually replate armor in round-based zombies, and it wasn't particularly liked either in Modern Warfare Zombies, but an introduction of the golden armor plate completely negated this issue. So you would automatically fill up and repair your armor plates over time, so you never needed to hunt for armor plates or replace them manually. And in the more harder sections of this game mode, the golden armor plate is absolutely incredible, and I think it would be insane for them to not return this item in Black Ops 6 Zombies, either via some sort of side Easter egg quest that you can unlock this on every map, or even have it as some sort of super Easter egg reward, as it's just so useful that you really feel the difference when you aren't playing with this in Modern Warfare Zombies. It is overpowered, but in the best way possible, and if this isn't in Black Ops 6 Zombies, then I'm gonna riot, because this is honestly one of the best things that they introduced in Modern Warfare Zombies. Another great equipment was the Ether Blade, and this was very similar to the Hell's Retriever from Mob of the Dead, where it was a lethal equipment that you could throw as a projectile and it never ran out of ammo, and after hitting a zombie, it will fly around and find another zombie before returning to you. And just like with the golden armor plate, in the harder sections of the game, the Ether Blade was very necessary, but it also just brought a ton of relief in that urgent gameplay where there's zombies right in front of you. You just need to get rid of them really quickly whilst you're reloading, and the Ether Blade manages to do that amazingly well. And to me, this thing, from its design, even the name, it just doesn't sound like something that would have just been invented in the Modern Warfare Zombies universe. This had to have existed before, and it would be incredible to see as well in Black Ops 6. Now, as the seasons went on, we got a lot more less useful schematics, but some of the other cool things that this game mode invented, such as the dog bone to get a friendly dog that was able to revive you and run around and take out the zombies, I think that would be a really cool thing to see return in Black Ops 6. Again, probably via an Easter egg, because of the fact that it can revive you no matter what, which is pretty overpowered, especially if it is in a round-based zombies mode where the idea is that eventually you are no longer going to survive. And another really good schematic was the Mags of Holding, which is essentially a bit like stock option Gobblegum from Black Ops 3, where it bypasses your need to reload, which allows you to just completely unload all of your ammo all at once. And again, it's really good for those harder sections of this game mode, and I would love to see this return as well. You could also argue that something like the dead wire detonators could also be a cool equipment to add in round-based zombies, just because it adds some extra strong damage to those projectiles and could make a super weapon inside of round-based zombies. And last but no means least, but I actually think that the Scorcher wonder weapon in this game was a really cool wonder weapon, not only in its design but its function, but also the fact that you could fly around the map with it. I doubt that this could come back in Black Ops 6 and work in the same function as being able to fly around like that, but I really appreciated that wonder weapon for the effect of being able to fly around so easily. But I really just like the fact that it's a pretty strong wonder weapon with that main beam, and it would be cool to see this in Black Ops 6 in some version, perhaps an earlier version, since we're like 30 years prior where it could be like a prototype version. But for Treyarch's first original wonder weapon in so many years, I thought it was a pretty good wonder weapon. Rumors are speculating that this mode may return in some form next year with the next Call of Duty game, but we'll just have to see about that. And in the meantime, embrace and enjoy a year full of round-based zombies after nearly 4 years of waiting. I hope you enjoyed this little look down memory lane and a little retrospective on this mode. If you haven't left your thoughts yet, please go ahead and do so in the comments below. If you enjoyed this at any point, you got to the end, let me know in the comments, drop a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate that. And if you want to see more retrospective content like this, then be sure to subscribe with the bell and check out another video on your screen right now.